Hi, my name is Lisber Pontes. I'm a senior principal software engineer at Milestone Systems. And in this presentation, I want to showcase an innovative product called Milestone AI Bridge. Let's dive in. Before that, I want to stress that in Milestone Systems, our direction is to be global or is to be a global leader in data-driven video technology software in and beyond security. And this is an important direction and also a strong reason why the Milestone AI Bridge has been developed. So in this presentation, we are going to discuss what is the Milestone XProtect, what is the Milestone AI Bridge as a product, why it has been developed, and how does it work, and also how to get the Milestone AI Bridge official documentation. So first of all, we need to start talking about the Milestone XProtect because that's the core component on our portfolio. And what is Milestone XProtect? Basically, it's a robust, secure, and reliable VMS. We have been in the market for more than 20 years now. The core business functionality behind the Milestone XProtect is to manage IP cameras. So the idea is that we can fetch video live and recorded from these IP cameras, and that we can store the video out of these IP cameras on a secure storage device. So let's have a quick look into a small and brief diagram of Milestone XProtect. So in one side of this diagram, we start with the cameras. So we have, as any VMS, lots and every day more and more cameras. These cameras are mostly sending video, but it is also true that modern cameras they can also send metadata apart from video. Then on our realm in Milestone XProtect, we have this component called the recording server. And in order to understand all of these IP cameras, Milestone has developed what are called camera drivers. So in a nutshell, we have today more than 10,000 cameras, or we support more than 10,000 cameras models, and all of that supporting comes because we have been developing and integrating more and more models through the camera drivers. So then the camera driver is that it's hosted on the recording server is basically receiving the video and also metadata. And the video and metadata are being recorded on what we call the video metadata database. At the same time, we also have a product called the Smart Client, which is the main video or client application that it's part of Milestone XProtect, and it is used basically to view live and recorded video from those IP cameras. So if we want to watch live video, then what the Smart Client will do is to connect to the recording server, and then through the camera driver, it will basically pull all of this video out of the recording server, and therefore it be shown in the Smart Client UI. At the same time, if there is recorded video, we call it playback video, the Smart Client can also go towards the recording server and fetch all the recorded and stored video in the database of the recording server. Then another important aspect on the XProtect ecosystem is this component called the management server. The management server has a SQL database behind, and it's mainly the server that it is used to store all the configuration behind the VMS. Last but not least, we have the management client UI or application, and it's basically the application used to configure the whole VMS. So basically creating roles, retention policies, users of the VMS, and so on. Then we reach the point in which we have explained the Milestone XProtect in a broad scale. And what differentiates Milestone from other VMSs is the fact that we are an open platform. And therefore, what Milestone allows for any integrator or developer is to extend the Milestone capabilities through what we call a set of integrations. And in order to build these integrations, there are basically three types of ways to develop a feature or functionality that it's not, let's say, developed in the core of the Milestone XProtect. First of all, we have the protocol integration. This is a low-level integration. It involves reaching some XProtect APIs, and let's say the advantage on this type of integrations is that the application or the integration is not bound to any framework or any operating system, because basically the integrations that are going through well-defined APIs. We then have also what we call a component integration. At this level, we are talking about .NET standalone applications that they can interact with XProtect, and they use what it is called the Milestone MIP SDK. And last but not least, we have the plugin integrations. These are the easiest integrations that can be developed, and they are basically hosted on the Smart Client, Management Client, or Event Server. They also use the MIP SDK underneath. Then one important aspect to mention is that the Milestone XProtect offers analytics out of the box. So basically, today, an integration can send analytic events to the VMS. An example is, for instance, if a certain integration detects, let's say, an animal, or it detects, I don't know, a car from a certain model or color, it can send a specific event. As part of that event, there can also be included some metadata. For instance, if we send an event of animal detected, in principle, we can also include in that event the coordinates to draw a bounding box around that animal. Apart from sending analytic events, Milestone XProtect today, it allows as well to receive ONVIF compliant metadata. And what this basically allows is that an integration can develop what it is known as object classification. For instance, through a live video feed, an application or an integration could spot a red car and a specific animal, let's say cat or dog, yellow t-shirts, etc. And this is called the object classification. And also, we can send the coordinates of bounding boxes for the objects that have been classified. So in a nutshell, today, integrations can be developed in which they could send analytic events. They can also send metadata including object classification and also bounding boxes. And then from the smart client, for instance, we could see the analytic events and trigger some alarms. We could see the bounding boxes, and also through the smart search in smart client, we could search based on some object classification categories. So for instance, we could in principle search for cards of color red, for cards of color blue, and that search capability it's provided or it's allowed because there is the Milestone XProtect VMS knows how to analyze and read the ONBIF metadata. So depending on the type of integration, achieving this functionality can be cumbersome or not, right? So who is interested on sending analytic events or metadata to Milestone XProtect? This is where the term intelligent video analytic application, in short IVA apps, come into play. An IVA application, or most modern IVA applications today, they are running on Linux environment. Thus, the integration required in order to send metadata, to send analytic events to Milestone XProtect falls into the protocol integration, which, as mentioned before, is the most cumbersome one to set. So protocols integration, as mentioned here, they are cumbersome or complex to develop, and since they involved exploring different APIs exposed by Milestone XProtect, and just to have an idea, these are some of the APIs that Milestone AI Bridge uses to communicate with Milestone XProtect. It's not the goal to go through each one of them, but just to show you a glimpse of what is going underneath when you need to develop a protocol integration. Also important or worth to mention is that the basic needs behind most IVAs are basically to retrieve video out of the VMS and then to send metadata, analytic events, and even modified video back to the VMS. So these are the core functionalities that most IVA applications require today. Now that we have seen what is Milestone XProtect and what is the most common needs for an IVA application, let's dive into why Milestone AI Bridge has been developed. So basically, what Milestone AI Bridge allows is to IVA developers to integrate easily with Milestone XProtect. So acts as an API gateway towards the Milestone XProtect, and that means that you don't need to connect to multiple APIs, as it was mentioned before. It also hides the security complexity from the IVA app developer because encryption and OAuth communication, it's handled by the AI Bridge platform. It also exposes modern integration protocols such as gRPC, Kafka, and REST, and offers modern video streaming protocols out of the box, namely RTSP and also gRPC protocols. Also, an important aspect behind Milestone AI Bridge is that it's a containerized application that runs natively on Linux, which is the ecosystem in which most IVA applications are running today. The fact that it's a containerized set of components also means that it can be easily deployed on any different type of environments. So the value proposition of Milestone AI Bridge, all in all, is to empower our partners and integrators to extend the Milestone XProtect with video intelligent analytic capabilities. And in order to do so, Milestone AI Bridge provides a unified API which can be used to achieve uh, this functionality. Now that we have seen why Milestone AI Bridge is important and has been developed, let's dive in on what is actually the AI Bridge as a product. As it can be seen from this diagram, Milestone AI Bridge sits between two different worlds. The world of the VMS, mostly running on Windows environments or ecosystems, and then the world of intelligent video analytic applications, which are mostly running on Linux ecosystems or operating systems. So Milestone AI Bridge sits in the middle, and since it has been developed as a containerized application, it can in principle run side by side with the IVA applications. It has been developed thinking on scalability, and thus when there is a high intensive usage of Milestone AI Bridge, it will be able to scale up and down to fulfill that need. Um, for high intensive video processing scenarios, we believe that deploying AI Bridge on a Kubernetes cluster is the right environment. And the fact that the AI Bridge exposes one single API to all of the IVA developers makes it quite appealing as a means to integrate or to bridge these two different worlds. So what is Milestone AI Bridge offering to IVA applications? Uh, some of the functionalities exposed by the Milestone AI Bridge are basically fetching Milestone XProtect video through modern protocols such as RTSP or gRPC. Thus, we can get live playback and snapshots using one single API. IVA applications can also send analytic events into Milestone XProtect, for instance, fall detection, a vehicle moving in the wrong direction. IVA applications can also send metadata back into XProtect, for instance, classification of objects or bounding boxes around them. And last but not least, for more modern or advanced scenarios, AI Bridge can, or video analytic applications could, in principle, modify video and send it back to XProtect. So a use case could be an IVA application that it's blurring people's face and it's sending this video back to XProtect or this modified video back to XProtect. We plan to showcase all of this integration and functionality in future video tutorials and make them available to our Milestone developer community afterwards. Now that we have seen what Milestone AI Bridge can do, let's focus now on how can all the functionality be achieved within the Milestone AI Bridge. So as mentioned before, the Milestone AI Bridge works as an API gateway, and for that matter, it provides a single entry point for IVA applications to interact with. From this GraphQL API endpoint, all the information needed to interact with AI Bridge, as well as to send information back to XProtect, can be obtained from the GraphQL endpoint API, from the GraphQL API. So all the discovery and endpoints needed, they are going to be provided out of the box by this unique GraphQL API. Let's focus now on a workflow showing how a hypothetical interaction between IVA application and AI Bridge can work. So in the left side of the image, we see the XProtect VMS and potentially some current integrations running in the, as mentioned before, in the VMS world. Now with the Kubernetes new deployment platform, or the IVA application world, we can deploy AI Bridge and any IVAs side by side. So on a multi-node Kubernetes cluster, scaling these sort of installations comes out of the box, and that's quite important when there is a huge amount of processing involved. So now let's dive into the three main components that an application it's going to interact with when working with AI Bridge. First, we have the query. This is the GraphQL endpoint. This is the component that it's going to provide all the needed data for any IVA application. For instance, it can fetch all the camera information, including the IDs, the name, the geolocation, and can also provide internal endpoints that are going to be used by an IVA application. For instance, if an IVA application needs to work with an RTSP endpoint, then it's the query component or the GraphQL API, the one that it's going to provide that endpoint. The same goes with the use case in which an IVA application needs to send back information to XProtect, then is the query or the GraphQL API the one that should provide the endpoints that allows an application to post these kind of messages back to XProtect. So the query, it's the unique entry point for the Milestone AI Bridge. Then we have the streaming component. This is the component that will offer or provides the fees for the application to process video. So for instance, if the application requested the RTSP, then the RTSP endpoint is going to be handled by the streaming component. And then we have the broker. This component is the one responsible to send information or data back to XProtect. So let's take a look into an IVA application, or hypothetical IVA application. It could have a configuration or web UI component in which, for instance, we could select a couple of cameras to start processing. And also we could request the RTSP endpoints for those cameras. Then we could have a inference container component, in this case running deepstream. The idea is that you could, in principle, inject an RTSP endpoint and start processing the video out of the box or automatically. And then we would have some analysis server in order to send or emit metadata based on the analyzed video. So in that case, this analysis component from the IVA could in principle post messages back to the broker, sending metadata, events, or modified video, which in turn will be sent back to XProtect. So in principle, all of the components in this flow are interacting with the query to get the information and the endpoints needed. They are interacting with the streaming to get video out of XProtect. And they are also interacting with the broker because based on the processing video or in the processed video, they are sending metadata, video, or even events back to XProtect. In terms of installation options, AI Bridge comes or offers two options or two configuration packages for installing. One is Docker Composed based, so this is used for less intensive video analytic processing applications or installations. And we also offer Helm Chart package for AI Bridge, and this one is the go-to option for intensive video analytic processing. And keep in mind that AI Bridge has been designed to scale up if the requirements or the processing is intensive. So it's the go-to option for larger installations. Milestone AI Bridge also includes a plugin for management client. It's called Milestone XProtect Processing Server Admin plugin. This plugin enables the user to unregister the AI Bridge and IVA applications, kind of an uninstallation. We are going to dig a bit on what it's unregistering and uninstalling in the future video tutorial. And it also allows to filter which analytic event, metadata, or video will be handled or will enter into the VMS. So this is an option or a configuration option for VMS administrators that we are going to explore in the next slides. And we will see what is the use case behind it. So what happens when the AI Bridge runs for the first time? What happens is that the AI Bridge will register itself as a Milestone XProtect service. So it will appear in the list of registered services along with the other services that have been registered on a certain Milestone XProtect installation. That means that before running the AI Bridge for the first time, we will need first to indicate to which VMS to connect. We can connect AI Bridge with multiple VMSs if needed. And for that matter, we will always need to provide which are the VMS credentials so that Milestone AI Bridge can register itself as shown in the picture above, and also to fetch content out of the VMS. So for instance, to fetch the camera's properties or to allow video to come out of XProtect or into AI Bridge for that, we need to use or provide a credential. So this is a requirement. Before running AI Bridge, we must always indicate this information. Once Milestone AI Bridge has been deployed, then it's the time for IVA applications to be installed or deployed. Basically, an IVA application should be containerized and so that they can run side by side with AI Bridge, meaning in the same network. Could be Docker Compose a network or a Helm or a Kubernetes network. The IVA applications should, in principle, or is a best practice that they register themselves when they start. And this way they will be automatically available to Milestone AI Bridge upon starting. We are going to showcase some IVA sample in a future video tutorial that will present this use case as the best practice when coding or developing IVA applications. As mentioned before, the IVA application can also send analytic events, metadata, or video into Milestone XProtect. So can a VMS administrator configure or filter which are the analytic events, the metadata, and video that can be injected into the VMS? The answer for that is yes, because Milestone AI Bridge offers the concept of topics as a mean to allow data, meaning events, metadata, or video to enter the VMS. So Milestone AI Bridge offers or defines three types of topics: the event topics, the metadata topics, and the video topics. The IVA application independently will define their own topics when they register themselves, and the VMS administrator will decide which topics on which cameras are going to be activated or enabled. The reason for this is that the idea is that when you have an IVA application running, this application in principle could send events, video, metadata back to XProtect. But at some point, we believe the VMS administrator should have the last word in terms of, okay, which are the events or on which devices am I allowing this to be injected? And that's the reason, to leave the last word to the VMS administrator to decide which are the type of events, metadata, or video that can be injected into the VMS on a certain device or camera. So once an IVA application has been deployed, its topics will become available for each camera for subscription. So basically, as mentioned in here, this will require that the management client plugin is installed. And this is an example of an IVA application that has been registered with AI Bridge. So in this case, we have an application called the person anonymization. And as part of this application, we have several topics. In here, we can see the metadata video, and if we had events, they will also be available for subscription. And the idea is that an administrator, a VMS administrator, can select the camera, which are the topics that are allowed to be sent back to XProtect, and then just save and apply the subscription. From that moment onwards, data, in that case, metadata sent to these topics, they are going to be visible or available in the VMS. But it will require this subscription beforehand. Let's talk now about the Milestone AI Bridge documentation and where it is located. You can refer to the Milestone official AI Bridge documentation at this URL. In there, you will find two different sections in terms of documentation. You will find the configure Milestone XProtect for IVA. This is what we call the administrator manual, and it covers all of the XProtect configuration that it's related to AI Bridge. Mostly let's say, the Windows configuration that it's required. We also have a section for the creation of the processing server, and this is what we call the integrator manual, and it covers the Milestone AI Bridge installation and internal setup. So basically all of the Linux-based configuration that might be needed. For IVA application developers, we also provide a reference manual. With this manual, any IVA app developer can check and browse offline all the details about the GraphQL API reference. It can be obtained from the Milestone download page under Milestone AI Bridge resources. So once you download this resources zip file, there is going to be found a folder called reference manual. And with that reference manual comes the index.html that allows you to explore the GraphQL, the AI Bridge GraphQL API. Thanks for listening in and have a good day.